This week we will be reading Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Nobel Prize-winning One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, which, remarkably, was published in the USSR in 1962 during Nikita Khrushchev's leadership, after he had denounced the excesses of his predecessor, Joseph Stalin. The Gulag, a complex system of prison camps in the Soviet Union, had preceded Stalin, but was greatly expanded during his tenure to punish supposed enemies of the state and make use of the labor of millions of people whom Stalin had arrested, mostly for fabricated reasons. The prison labor system in the USSR was a central part of Stalin's goal of making the country a great industrial power. From 1929, when the Gulag was first expanded, to its apex in 1953 when Stalin died, it is estimated that 18 million people were sent to the Gulag. 6 million others were sent into prison or exiled elsewhere. Anne Applebaum, author of Gulag, A History, calculates that 3 million people died directly from being in the Gulag. At its height, there were 476 separate prison camps. Solzhenitsyn, after having been a German POW in World War II, spent 8 years in the Gulag, like many others, convicted of having been sent back to the USSR to spy for the Russians. During the Khrushchev thaw, he was rehabilitated and allowed to return home. One Day was set in the Soviet Gulag of the 1950s. It was published in 1962 in the USSR after Khrushchev had denounced Stalin's excesses. In 1970, Solzhenitsyn won the Nobel Prize in Literature. He also wrote The First Circle, Cancer Ward, and the Gulag Archipelago, all critical of the Soviet Union, and then he was expelled from the USSR in 1974. He returned to Russia in 1994, and he died there in 2008. Themes that we will encounter in One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich include the inhumanity in the Gulag, the arbitrary and senseless rules, the disregard for human life and suffering, isolation from loved ones, the resourcefulness of the prisoners, human beings' resilience and survival instinct, camaraderie among the prisoners, and the small blessings and triumphs in each day. Do be sure to read the foreword and introduction before you read the book. It is essential for understanding what you will be reading. Questions I'd like you to consider as you read are: what aspects of the book are the most realistic? That is, how can you tell that Solzhenitsyn had been in the Gulag himself? Can you understand why the book caused such a huge sensation in the Soviet Union when it was published? What do you think Soviet citizens were thinking as they read the book? What would the people of the USSR have found most disturbing or remarkable? You likely will find this week's reading very troubling, perhaps horrifying, and probably depressing at times. You will begin to understand why the term Siberia has for so long evoked images of desolation